career. It's not because Tom is this much better. Like, the weapons are good, but he's had good weapons. Why? Because it's getting so much easier because the NFL regulations are so offensive-based. Is that Tom Brady, if it was the 80s, would retire because you could grab him and slam him into the turf and corners could grab wide receivers. This game is so easy for competent quarterback. Justin Herbert is a better pro quarterback than he was a college quarterback. Seriously. Kyler Murray now can be unstoppable if you give them competent protection. And so now quarterbacks play knowing they're like my grab wide receivers. Receivers now know. A lot of you guys are young, you don't remember. In the 80s and 90s and 10 years ago, there was a term called alligator arms that was used on every broadcast. No receiver wanted to go over the middle. You tried to draft one big guy who would be willing to go over the middle. Every receiver goes over the middle. You can't hit him anymore. You can't hit him anymore. And then players never want to go too low and hurt a guy's knees. There's an unspoken rule. Don't take a guy's knees out. Well, now you can't hit him high. You can't hit him low. The tackling's gotten worse. So wide receivers and tight ends have never been more confident. Offensive-based and offensive-leaning. So it's not like Brady. It's the first time in his career he's done that. And I like Mike Evans, but he's not Jerry Rice. I mean, there's a reason for this. The game is getting really easy for quarterbacks. And I'll give you an example. You don't even need great weapons. You don't even need great experience. Mac Jones yesterday had good protection. 76% completion rate, a touchdown, no picks, 230 yards, 25 points. Didn't play a great team, but Mac Jones started 1 year of college. He's now in the NFL, and he moved the ball and 250 yards and 25 points and a touchdown and 76% because he had competent protection. That's why it's so important for the Chargers that they have Justin Herbert and Rashawn Slater, the left tackle. Rashawn Slater is in the argument through the first 5 weeks of the season of being the best left tackle in football. He's that good. And Herbert's in the argument to be a top 5 quarterback, obviously, in the first 5 weeks. Herbert knows every snap. I've got time. You can't stop my receivers. And I've said this for years. I started noticing it about 7-8 years ago in Southern California, is that the great athletes, young kids, always set culture and trends. And it was about 7-8 years ago, I noticed in California, of their 250 high school football players, there were no good running backs anymore. You got like one in the whole state. We have 40 million people. And you'd have like 50 5-star wide receivers or 4-star wide receivers because the kids were telling you the money's at wide receiver. The money's at quarterback. The money's at cornerback. The money's at edge rusher. No, you're not getting a second contract at running back. So kids figured it out. So you're getting all these athletes now. They're playing quarterback. They're playing wide receiver. They don't want to be running backs. So you got 6'4", 6'5" wide receivers, ballers out there. USC's got a kid, Drake London, could have been an NBA player. He goes to wide receiver. Like 15 catches a game. You can't stop him. The rules help him, his athletic ability. So there's a reason. I mean, Cleveland and the Chargers yesterday, there's great defensive players all over the field. Neither team could stop each other. So I just look at Brady, and it's like, don't retire if your industry gets easier for you. By the way, I want to touch on this with Cleveland. So I said this. Joy is my witness. I said this, I think on Friday. I said it's going to be a very important 7 to 8 weeks for Baker Mayfield. And I've always said this. If you had a brother and he was more successful than you were, but he lived in Seattle and you lived in Tampa, it's not in your face every day. No big deal. But what if he was your neighbor and he had a better house than you, and every year he brought a new Porsche, his kids went to a better school, every day it was just jammed in your face? It'd get a little annoying, right? And I said, for Baker Mayfield, it's one thing to lose, but he hasn't gotten the bag yet. He hasn't been paid. And this general manager and head coach did not draft him. They inherited him. And I said, watch the next 7 to 8 weeks because he's going to be on the field with his contemporaries. He's now officially 0-1 against Justin Herbert, somebody in his age group. This week, it's Kyler Murray. A couple weeks, it's Joe Burrow. Then it's Mac Jones. Then it's Lamar Jackson. So it's not just that he's playing games. he's playing games against all these young quarterbacks who have similar experience. Baker's got the better O-line than all of them. And what happens if you start losing them and you have a minute 26 and the ball and you move it 26 yards? I mean, Baker's last 2 drives were handed off on a 3rd 10 and then moved 26 yards with a minute 20 left. It's not great. Remember I said in Kansas City his last 2 drives, 3 and out, pick. So now you're starting to get contemporaries side by side and you're watching them. And I didn't think Baker played bad at all yesterday, but I think this is a really interesting point. So you come off the Herbert loss, go home, here comes Kyler Murray. Off, by the way, not a great Kyler Murray game. So that's going to be a focused football team. So it's very interesting. Not making any predictions, but it's I said, it's a very interesting 8-week time. Okay, good stuff today. You know, I changed, Joy, as you know, from oatmeal to a green juice drink every morning.
How are you feeling?
Energy's through the roof. Honestly, could do 4 or 5 hours today.
Okay.
I'm out of the oatmeal, made me